There's a formula to it. A very simple formula.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Slasher Podcast. My name is Jared, and this podcast will have many different kinds of topics. These topics in particular, are who am I? Why do I love horror? What is this podcast? What is Slash It? My favorite scary movies, as Ghostface says, and the future of Slash It. Where do I see Slash It going? So let's just jump into this. Who am I? Well, my name is Jared. I said that in the beginning. I love horror movies. If you could see my room right now, which is where I'm recording this, I have 128 VHS for horror movies. I have a bunch of scary movie posters on the wall. I am going to mix and match scary movies and horror movies because H's are hard to pronounce for me. Anyways, I have a printout of The Shining, the picture from the end of The Shining, on my wall over here. It's like right next to me, to my left. So that's pretty cool. I own all of the Saw movies, all of the Halloween movies, the Friday the 13th movies, the paranormal movies, Sinister, Jaws, Scream, all of those. I love scary movies, so I've just deep dived into as many as I could possibly find. I think it all started, so there's two movies that I would say kicked off my, scary movie obsession. Well, there's three, but I'll get into why I separated those both in a minute. So there's two that I started when I was a kid. So I watched Jaws. This was really the first scary movie I watched was Jaws. I was probably 8 or 9 when I first watched it for the first time. And that movie terrified me. I am still afraid of swimming pools and the oceans because I don't want to go into the water, ever. I remember being a kid, and after I watched the movie, I was so scared of the pool that my pool used to have, during certain periods of time, half the pool would be covered in darkness, and I wouldn't go into that half the pool. The issue was the ladder was in that half the pool, so that was a very traumatic experience for me. But it definitely helped pave my way into why I love scary stuff so much, because I loved looking back at it. I loved that feeling that gave me, and I wish I could be as scared by something now as I was then. And the next movie that I'm going to be talking about is Scream. I watched Scream before I watched any other movie, slasher movie, I should say. I still love Scream. It's probably one of my favorites. I guess it's not my favorites. It's just up there in my favorites. The scene with Drew Barrymore in the beginning of that movie freaked me out to no end. I have never been more scared. I don't think I'll ever be as scared as I was watching Drew Barrymore hanging from the tree, like she does at the very beginning before the Scream logo shows up. I will always remember that feeling that I got when I watched Drew Barrymore hanging from the tree for the first time. That was an insane feeling. And yeah, I mean, just Scream in general is such a pivotal experience in the horror genre and in my personal life. It's a very interesting connection between how it changed the horror genre and how Scream changed my own life. Because so many things that I love now can be directly tied back to Scream, and I think I love that. The next movie that I'm going to be talking about is the Blair Witch Project. I love the Blair Witch Project. I can understand how people think that it's not the best movie. I could see that it's mostly blurry, shaking and stuff. I get it. Don't get me wrong, I get it. It definitely is very blurry and very bad, camera work. But that's the whole point. I feel like people don't understand that the Blair Witch Project is meant to be shaky and weird and creepy because that's the entire point of the Blair Witch Project. You're not supposed to be like a studio film. It's supposed to look like it was 3 kids just out missing in the middle of, the woods. I also have a connection to this movie. Burkittsville isn't that far from where I live, so it's kind of like a more personal connection. Like the woods that they take place is not really that far from me in the house when it was still up. As a house, not just a foundation. It's weird, the basement's still there. The basement from the end of the Blair Witch Project is actually still in the ground. Like, they didn't cover it up. They might have covered it up now with just, like, dirt or something, but for a really long time, it was just the, foundation in the basement. They just flattened? Flattened. I'm gonna say flattened, that's not the word. But the house, so that way, because it was so, like, distraught and, like, destroyed, so they just destroyed the house, and now we're left with, like, a weird basement, and then now I think they put dirt on it or something, which really, really, really sucks, but anyways. The Blair Witch Project is very pivotal to my understanding of horror movies because up to that point, I had just seen slashers like Friday the 13th and Halloween. Halloween's still my favorite. I'll get into Halloween later on when we get to my favorite horror movies, but for right now, the Blair Witch Project is one of my favorites. I also love because the Blair Witch Project has one of the most pivotal, like, not pivotal, like, well thought out backstories. Because they have the Blair Witch Project, and then they have the Blair Witch Project 2. Is it? It's Blair Witch 2, I think, is the second sequel, like the first sequel. And then the Blair Witch is the sequel that came out in 2016, I think. I think it was 2016. Either way, it's still very interesting how they made, like, all of the backstory that comes with the Blair Witch Project is incredibly interesting. I have the book that they made. It's like detailing like all the police reports. I have The Confession of Rustin Parr, which if you don't know who Rustin Parr is, he's a guy who killed the 7 children, and that's kind of where our story begins. Really, is with Rustin Parr, and I mean there's before that, but Rustin Parr is the guy who killed the 7 children in the basement. And then if you've seen the Blair Witch Project, which you haven't, spoiler alert, the people who end up, well, they don't die at the end of it. They just end up not living, or living, but I don't know, whatever happens at the end, however you would word that, the Blair Witch Project, that happens, one of the kids is meant to hide in the corner of the room that they're in, the basement. But I think it's Michael, yeah, whichever one. Michael hides in the corner while Heather goes down into the cellar basement thing, and she ends up getting like hit, and then the camera falls down. But Michael is in the corner, and if you know anything about the lore, Rustin Parr and his children, the children that he kills, the one that survived had to hide in the corner and look away from the murders. And that's what I love, is like looking back and more about like the whole backstory to the entire like story, I guess. I find it really interesting how they managed to make it all circle around, like, kind of. And then the Blair Witch 2 is really interesting. I think it's the Blair Witch. It's Blair Witch 2, I think is what it's called. I have the VHS tape somewhere. I can't see it from here. Not that you would know that I can't see it from here, but I can't see it from here, so I don't know the name. I think it's Blair Witch 2. I don't know, it came out in 99? I think 99. Either way, that movie was given a lot of unfair hate. If it was its own movie, I think it would have been really, really good. And honestly, for it being a Blair Witch movie, it's not like found footage. It's not, like what the original Blair Witch Project is. But I think it might be, my opinion might be skewed a little bit because I watched the 2016 sequel before I watched Blair Witch 2. So I think my opinions are a little skewed because I got the sequel that is the found footage, and the people who wanted to see the Blair Witch 2 back then didn't get to have that sequel. So I think I can respect it for doing its own thing when people then wouldn't have been able to because they would want Blair Witch 2 to be a found footage movie when it's really not. It's kind of an interesting the way they did it is actually really cool. I really do love the way that they made their own movies. I think because okay, I'm gonna spoil it a little bit. So spoilers for Blair Witch 2 ahead. So basically they go out into the woods and they die. They don't die. They get taken by the Blair the witch's spirit. And sorry, I had to cut there for a second. The witch actually ends up taking them and makes them begin to not what happens? What is it? They end up leaving their night at night they leave their campsite because they're in the middle of the woods because they're in the middle of the woods. That's just how this stuff goes. And because they're in the middle of the woods, the witch takes them and they end up murdering these other people that are with them. And they end up murdering them and they find themselves that they had videotaped it. So then at the end of the movie, after a bunch of other stuff happens, it flashes and you can see that they had videotaped their whole murders and them murdering the people, but they don't remember any of it. I think that's really cool. And they also find out that some stuff that happened in the movie was actually the Blair Witch confusing the the viewer. And I think that's really cool. That should have that's worth it to me. I know people really didn't like it, but that's worth the watch to me. The way they managed to tie up the twist was definitely worth it, and people should give it another chance before they just rule it off as a movie never to watch. So yeah, that's why I love the Blair Witch so much. I kind of went off on a really, really long tangent there for some reason. But so yeah, let's move on to the second point. What is this podcast? What is this podcast? This podcast is a place for you, my fellow scary movie lovers, to come and listen to someone talk about scary movies and what they love and what they don't like. I'm sure there'll be many different kinds of podcasts. Right now, I'm just doing a podcast where I'm talking. And the next episode will be different than the main because I have a specific kind of podcast that I want to talk about there. Specific type of topic, I should say. There'll be some games, some reviews for scary movies. I kind of write the reviews for scary movies on the website. But for now, I want to make podcasts that are for the reviews too. If that's because sometimes people don't like reviews written out. So if podcasts are more your thing and you like listening to my weird voice, I'm not gonna call my voice weird. Just it's my voice. If you like listening to my voice, but you want to also hear a review, you can do that here because that's pretty cool. Yeah, so there'll be games, there'll be guests coming on the podcast too, which would be really cool. At some point, I'm probably will make this a video podcast as well. I just need to find a camera and get the camera that will be good enough for you guys to actually watch, because I don't want to use a 480p computer monitor camera. Sorry, why did I forget the word camera? Yeah, so I'm new to this podcast thing, obviously. I'll get better, I hope, as time goes on. Right now, I'm really bad. Podcasts will get better and better and better and better until I don't sound like I am dying and have no idea what's going on. But, so yeah, this podcast will be just me talking about horror movies. And I also wanted to create this podcast for people to listen to me talk, especially if you don't have anyone to talk about horror movies with. So I want to be able to give the feeling that you're talking to someone or listening to someone talk about horror movies to you, to the audience that's listening to me right now. So that's kind of why I created this podcast. It's kind of an interesting idea, I guess. Most of the time it'll be solo for now. I may add a guest or two, and then there may be some like more common guests that show up on the podcast. But for now, it's just me. I know it's pretty cool. What is Slash It? Slash It is something I created almost 2 years ago. I did nothing with it. I made the name, I made the intro that you see in all of the videos, and that's all you saw. Like, that was basically all I did. I made one video, I think, introducing Slash It, and now it's nothing. Like, it was nothing then. But now it's much more than that. First off, it's a website for reviews, news, anything like that. Also, there's a YouTube channel for anything that's not article worthy, or not article worthy, but better fits video form. I also think that Slash It is a place for people of all kinds to come. Like, if you like articles more, you have the Slash It website, so you can go look at articles about scary movies. If you like the whole videos, if you like listening to me talk like this, we have the videos and you have the podcast. If you like watching and, like watching me talk, eventually we'll make a video podcast. I'm not sure how often we'll make those because I don't have a setup for that right now, but eventually we'll make those. I think that Slash It will be everything that a horror fan will love because it comes from horror fans. It's not commercially produced right now, or probably ever. It's not oversaturated with like sponsorships and like, advertisements. It's a horror fan creating content for other horror fans. That's kind of, I think, my whole ideology for Slash It. So yeah, let's move on to my favorite scary movies. I hate this question with a passion because I'm gonna list off my favorite scary movies, and then I will try to like decipher what my actual favorite horror movie is from those. There's Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Sleepaway Camp, The Blair Witch Project, Halloween 2018, I should add that, Jaws, Friday the 13th, Scream, The Shining, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street. I like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, a lot. I don't know why. I'm looking around my room to see posters, to see if I forgot some. I'm gonna get up for a second. Oh yeah, the Amityville Horror. I actually really liked the remake. I don't know, it was kind of an interesting remake. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about here. I also really liked Night of the Living Dead. I like The Ring, Lost Boys, if you count that. Gremlins is not really a scary movie. It's like a childish horror movie. Not childish. It's just kind of not like regular horror movies. There's Candyman, The Exorcist. I am so excited for the now upcoming movie that is Candyman. I'm so excited for that. Oh my gosh. I said The Shining. There's all the Scream remakes, not remakes, sequels. The Saw, the original Saw, I love that movie. There's the first Paranormal Activity. I like Paranormal Activity 2. I'm not a big fan of any of the other sequels. There's, what else? A Quiet Place is really good. The Purge, Pet Cemetery. I really do like it. I would say my favorite horror movie, only if you're talking about the amount of times that I've watched a horror movie, is Halloween. But I also like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and Texas Chainsaw and Sleepaway Camp. I would say my favorite, if I had to pinpoint, like slasher movie, is the original Halloween. But I really like 2018 too. And then other than that, it's Sinister, which you could kind of count as a slasher, but not really. And The Shining, I think. But that's only if I had to pick. I would never pick one and be like, oh, all the other horror movies are bad. Because I really can't pick one because I love scary movies too much to pick a. Why did my voice do that? Anyways, I can't stand like picking one scary movie and deciding that's my favorite because I have too many favorites, if that makes sense. I love just listening to, scary movies and like podcasts just like this who do like make that decision, like I like this movie because I don't know if their brain works like mine, but I just can't pick a certain favorite movie because like I forgot one. Psycho. I love Psycho, but it didn't even show up. But like I love Psycho. The original one, not the remake. Not the remake. Anyways, the original Psycho is such a good movie. And that has like, what, 6 sequels? 5? It has 5 sequels. Why did they make a sequel to Psycho? Sorry, that just annoys me. I don't know why they made a remake to Psycho. It makes no sense. It doesn't need a sequel. I guess it kind of needed one because it doesn't need one. It definitely doesn't need one. But it's kind of cool to see them like become a slasher film rather than just like a 3 people die in Psycho. I think it's 3. So we're gonna move on. The future of slash it. Future slash it. That is a good question. I have some ideas for the future of slash it. Right now we're just gonna focus on getting people who want to write articles for the website, and the future is gonna be interesting. If our website particularly takes off, and a lot of people are visiting and having like a fun time and everything, we want to become a magazine that is horror related. And it's a big step up, but we do want to become a physical magazine that you like order, kind of like Fangoria, but less behind the scenes stuff. There'd be some of that, but more like, here's why this is so great. This is why this is so great. This is why this is so amazing. This is why this is so bad. And we'll have some of the behind the scenes stuff and like interviews and stuff like that. But that's the goal for Slash It, the website. The future Slash It here is to make content. I love making videos. I've always loved it since I was too young to make a YouTube channel. I was probably 11 the first time I started trying to make something, but it didn't really work and I couldn't put it on YouTube because I couldn't have a YouTube channel. But now that now that I'm older, I'm 18, which I haven't mentioned. Yeah, I'm 18 at the time of recording this. And what day is today? I'm gonna date this. This is June 26th, Saturday. So that's the day. I am 18 currently. So yeah, where Slash It will go is gonna be very interesting. I'm sure I just skipped over something, but my brain is completely forgetting it, like what I just said before this. But yeah, I'm 18, and Slash It, by the time I'm 22, 23, will be completely different probably than now. And oh yeah, I remember what I was talking about. Yeah, so I made content. I've always loved making content. So for now, the YouTube channels and the podcasts, the only like goal I have in mind for them is to make as much quality content as I possibly can. That's all I really want to do for now. Because Slash It I think is really interesting. I think it's something that I have my heart in. I've poured my heart into this and some other stuff that is coming out, which by the time you're watching and listening to this, you probably know, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to talk about it like tomorrow. But other than that, I think it'll be really interesting where Slasher will end up in the next like 5 years. So yeah, that's going to be the end of the first Slasher podcast. Most podcasts won't be like this, so rambly and kind of impromptu, kind of. Which I do kind of want to keep it like that because, again, like I said earlier, I do want you to feel like you're just talking to me, listening to me discuss scary movies. So yeah, thank you for listening all the way to the end. Go follow our Twitter and Instagram. It's at /it horror. And I think its Instagram is on Instagram. It's @slashithorroryt. I think. We have a Twitch account @slashithorror for streaming like video games and stuff. Um, like scary video games, not just like Fortnite. um, so yeah, go follow them, and you can stay up to date with everything related to Slash It. Our website is on our YouTube channel or on our Twitter account, so you can go to our Twitter and then find our website from there. Go check out all the articles. I spent a lot of time writing them, I should say, not reading them, which I do read them a lot, but writing them. Yeah, go follow our Twitter accounts and check out the website. As I say this in every single video that I make, remember, read every day like it's Halloween.